Welcome to Nintendo Voice Chat for the week of May 28th, 2015. I am your host, Jose Otero, and I am joined solely this week by Per Schneider.
Hi, Jose.
And we are talking about your Codename NX predictions, which you so kindly sent to us. But before we do that, let's talk about breaking news, Amiibo and Amazon, and what happened. And I'm still not buying them. I don't care what you say.
Dude, there's a life sign from Amazon. You know, we've had...
between Amazon and Nintendo?
For a long time, we've said, hey, is this the end of pre-orders or orders of Nintendo product on Amazon? I mean, it was pretty haphazard, but they actually sent out a custom newsletter to people who were interested in Amiibo and basically said, yes, this Friday you can order all Wave 4 Amiibos. I mean, they're speaking the lingo. They're saying
for 10 seconds.
Wave 4. The windows are 30 minutes. That probably means the actual window is 30 seconds.
Yeah, or less.
But, you know, they're starting at 2 p.m. Pacific time with Pac-Man, and then every 30 minutes they've got a different one. Even the Inkling Boy, Girl, and Squid 3-pack is going to go on sale at 6 p.m. So each one of them, like 30 minutes. So that's good. They're limiting it to one figure per customer. They're disabling one-click ordering, all that kind of stuff. So
if you have still not pre-ordered or gone through the hurdles required to get Wave 4 Amiibo or your Silver Mario or your Splatoon Amiibo, I guess this is for you.
Yeah.
When is this? When is this happening?
This is tomorrow. It's on Friday
sorry,
it's not tomorrow. It's
29th.
Friday the 29th.
Which, by the time you're listeing to this, you may have missed out on.
Yeah, sorry.
But if you do listen to the podcast on Thursday night / Friday morning, when this is hopefully going to be posted, you get a chance to get Amiibo.
But that's a good sign. I mean, they're spacing it out. They're rolling it out. They're, no kind of midnight shenanigans or anything like that. So I'm liking that. I hope this is a new direction for
especially because
less frustration.
Nintendo is going to continue to produce Amiibo with their games, right? Like, let's be fair. Like, why stop when 10 million was the number reported at that last investors thing, right? Like, there's no signs of stopping that.
No.
If anything, I think one thing that maybe we haven't talked about enough on this show is that
Amiibo, we have not talked about it at all.
But we haven't talked about the impact at E3, right? Think about it. Last year at E3, Amiibo was just tied to one token game for the most part. It was Super Smash Brothers. Then it became Hyrule Warriors. Then it became Captain Toad got Amiibo support. Mario Party 10 at its announcement did not have Amiibo support. Now it does. And Animal Crossing is getting a game built around cards for Amiibo. Yep. So we are retroactively seeing Nintendo sort of approach Amiibo with every franchise now.
And I don't know if you guys just recently did a game scoop on kind of Nintendo E3 predictions. I sadly couldn't make it, but did anybody pick an Amiibo game? Like, did anybody say a game centered around the concept of Amiibo? No.
I think it came
up. The Skylanders of Nintendo.
No, I think we just acknowledged that we wouldn't be surprised if Star Fox ended up getting Amiibo support.
Well,
if Mario Maker gets Amiibo support.
Yeah.
These are things that we sort of looked at it and went, yeah, this just makes sense, right? Like, and it's going to continue. And more importantly, I think they'll continue to experiment with it. Like, look, Yoshi's Woolly World. Look at those adorable Amiibo, right?
Yeah.
The internet loved them from out of the gate. What else was there? I don't know how people reacted to the cards yet, but to be fair, none of us have really held them.
Yeah.
So
you played with Splatoon Amiibo. You tried it.
I did. Interestingly enough, I think what surprised me about Splatoon Amiibo is that they are read-only. They don't write any data to the figure.
They're dongle Amiibo.
Yeah, they're basically, we unlock content in your game, and that's it. And I was kind of surprised by that. But I guess what would it really transfer? Like, it is just unlocking levels in your game.
Yep.
But knowing that Amiibo can read and can write, I look at the Splatoon Amiibo set and wonder, what else will this set do? And I think we've talked about that on the show as well.
Yeah, we'll see.
We will. Were you going to ask something about the Splatoon Amiibo when you brought it
up?
No.
We talked a little bit about it last week, but the challenges the Amiibo, the Splatoon characters unlock are actually really cool, right? Like, I like the extra functionality. You were not too happy about them being basically a key to unlock like this content because, like, I mean, one of the arguments about Splatoon is that the content is not plentiful in this game, right? Like, when you get down to saying, what do I get for my dollars? At least at launch, there's not enough, and so it feels like they were gating away a little bit more.
And we try not to way priced too heavy in a review, but when you do have sort of an empty feeling after you play a game, when you do feel like, was this really enough to hold my attention? You and I have talked about this a lot. I feel like Splatoon is mechanically sound.
It's awesome
so
mechanically.
Fun to paint.
Yeah.
It is so fun to play. Even if the maps are being rotated every 4 hours, I barely notice because all I'm thinking about is paint everything. Paint them, paint the floor, paint the tree, get everything and cover it. But I still felt like, the Amiibo challenges were something that if that had been included, I think it would have added a little more to that package. It would have made me feel like right now the campaign is a one and done. Like it's not like a Mario campaign where you find yourself going back.
And you get more stars.
Yeah, I mean, you upgrade equipment, but it didn't hold me quite as much.
Got it.
But it's still really fun, and I think people need to sort of wake up to that fact. I'm not sure, how people feel about. I feel like the Splatoon people who talk about Splatoon, it's a split audience, or people talk about Nintendo, it's a very split audience. Some look at Splatoon and say, I don't like the art style. This feels like a Nickelodeon ripoff.
Yep.
I don't feel like these characters are unique enough. And then you have the other side who are giving it fan art, who absolutely love the mechanics, who can appreciate what that game is.
Yeah. I really dig it, and the way I approach this game, like, I feel like it's almost like Pac-Man, where the core mechanics of the game are so good that at the end, after you're done playing, it doesn't feel like you're not sitting there going like, oh man, I really wish it had a couple more levels. Maybe I'll get to this point, right? Where multiplayer, I feel like, all right, I've done this level so many times, and like it feels like the same experience now, and I really need something new. But right now, I've got that kind of like, I'm in love with the mechanics of the game. It is not daunting. Some people compare it to Titanfall, where it's a multiplayer heavy game. It's a little unfair because Splatoon does have a pretty fun campaign.
It does.
It's short, but it's a really fun campaign. Yeah. But it does not have that daunting factor for me. Like Titanfall, I can get into a match where everybody's completely owning me, and it feels like it can get frustrating. Where in this game, it always feels like you have a chance.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
Special guest from last week's show, Chris Kohler, wrote sort of his review impressions or editorial I did on Splatoon, and one thing I enjoyed that he pointed out, and I think I want to say this has been said before, but that there is something to the idea. That you don't have to be good at headshots to be good at Splatoon. Yeah. You don't have to, just the notion of firing the gun and making sure you're painting the ground means you're contributing in a positive way. And we mentioned it slightly in our review, but I feel he did a better job of pointing that out, that's ultimately what makes this so approachable. And I really think anyone who's on the fence about it, hopefully you tried the global test fire. If you missed out, so the last one didn't go so smoothly at first, and it was a shame because that was, for some people, that was their first experience to try and play Splatoon, and it didn't go so hot at the beginning, but Nintendo left the servers on for some time.
They gave it an extra hour, basically, right? Or a full hour of working. I was able to get in 2 matches, and then it crashed.
Okay.
And then it was down for 30 minutes, and I walked away, after getting stuck on the matchmaking screen. And honestly, one of the issues with the game is when you're in matchmaking, you're powerless. You can't exit out. You're stuck,
in a match,
right?
This party started. You're not leaving for 3 minutes. This party is going to go for 3 minutes. That's another thing. You can't quit out of a match.
Yeah, and so the test fire, I walked away from it, but people told me that they kept a full hour open afterwards, and it was good. Now that we're seeing it with live servers and Japan playing, the connection speeds are much, much faster and better.
You played at my desk.
And there was no wait at all. So that's great. That's a good sign. Hopefully the community will remain active, and I'm hoping the new map releases every couple of weeks or so are substantial enough to keep people going back and creating this additional kind of activity.
I will credit them that I think the rollout plan, if executed properly, will keep people playing that game.
Yep.
And maybe that was the reason the rollout plan happened. I know for some people, they sort of interpreted the situation as a narrative on, well, this game wasn't done, and they pushed it out the door. I don't know. I can't choose a side on that. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But a rollout plan where and saying free DLC to an extent is them kind of covering their behinds on that.
I think that's the case. By the way,
might be the case.
I think that's the case because otherwise, for critics, they knew that. I think one of the worries was that there's not enough in the package.
Yeah.
I think for the test version, which for everyone listening, there was a separate version for reviewers that was running on its own servers, actually separate from the test fire, right? Like when the test fire was down, the review server still worked, which was a good indicator.
Oh, wow,
yeah, it worked great.
Wow.
Which was an indicator that there was something unique going on. Maybe something got screwed up, but it wasn't just too many people playing. But then I think they would have put more maps in rotation on that one. If they were truly done and it was just a staged rollout, and they would have told reviewers, hey, this is like TV. Every couple of weeks you'll get new content, but here's some of the content you're expecting.
But I will admit, I want to believe you on that, but I will admit that sort of a controlled rollout like this does keep people talking about this game a bit longer because they know content's coming. And the fact that they attach the word free to it is going to keep those people talking about it regardless. And remember, when they announced all this stuff, you and I sat down and we were like, wow, a lot of people didn't seem upset or offended by this. But come August, the Splatoon that you have will be much different than the Splatoon you are buying this Friday when it comes out in North America.
And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to go back, right? Like just like games like I think Minecraft is the extreme where the game you got at the beginning is so different from the game you have now. We'll have to see if that happens with Splatoon, right?
Absolutely.
Like small tweaks can enhance a game but not radically change your opinion of it. But, maybe with Splatoon you are going to get these really cool friend features to pull together, to play matchmaking games
parties
with your friends, with parties, all that.
Absolutely.
And maybe there'll be more to it. So I'm gonna be interested to see how this shakes out. But, if you're on the fence, if you enjoy playing games like Mario Kart, I feel like Splatoon is a good investment. It has that multiplayer factor. You can absolutely play with strangers and have a great time with this game. Yep. It's a little lacking on the friend aspects right now, but that's coming.
Yep. All right. Well, there you have it. Possibly the last words you will hear on Splatoon for a while on the show.
Until the next maps are out.
If that comes up at E3, I wonder almost if that does come up at E3. If paid DLC for Splatoon is mentioned, because to me that says they are serious about this franchise. Like Amiibo was one step to me of Nintendo saying we are serious about Splatoon. We are going to push this. And we're going to tie it to this thing that we think is selling pretty well right now.
Yeah.
I think the next step is saying, okay, well, once this free DLC cycle is over, here's how we're going to continue to support Splatoon. Yeah. I feel like when Mario Kart 8, they got a taste of, wow, this does extend the conversation around this game. With Smash Brothers, I think you were right that they were really late to some degree on some of that stuff. Like we got Mewtwo in April, and Mewtwo came kind of standalone. Do you remember there was a Miiverse stage for Smash Brothers that they talked about during the 50 cool facts you didn't know? Yeah. Where is that stage? Where's tournament mode? Where are those extra features? I think that at E3, maybe that comes up, right? Not only talking about what's happening with Splatoon post all the free stuff, but what's happening with Smash Brothers.
Yeah, I think Splatoon is interesting because it seems like Nintendo, at least in the US, decided that it is a kids market game. And so I think the kids market on consoles is not as interesting for paid DLC at this point, right? Because there is this hurdle of entering. It's a much bigger hurdle to get people to download and pay than on mobile.
So explain for folks though, why do you feel it is a kids market game?
Oh, the marketing dollars are all spent on the young market.
Shows,
it is 100%. There's no targeting older gamers, which you will see with franchises like Smash Brothers, even Puzzle and Dragon. Those games, they are going for more of a kind of like an overall game playing experience. With Splatoon, so far, all the spend has been on kids.
I wonder how the Puzzle and Dragon marketing is working out for them, just because a good friend of the show, Francisco, watched the ad that sometimes shows up on IGN. And all it's showing is just the match aspects. And it is really hard to sell what that game is to people, right? And we see this come around a lot with Nintendo franchises as how the heck do they market these things to people?
It's tough. I mean, this franchise is very well known in the East, obviously, right? Not the East Coast, the far East Coast.
Way far East.
And so it does... You kind of see the whimsical graphics, and you get it though when you see what it is. It's like it's a puzzle game, and I feel like all you need to know is hey, it's a puzzle game. You may have heard the name, and by the way, it's got Mario characters. So it's, it's going to be interesting. I mean, that game, I think they're definitely looking for more of a female target as well.
Okay. There's definitely even some females in the office who are walking up to me saying, I can't wait to play this. Like, this is totally my game. I'm going to enjoy this all day Saturday, if so.
That's cool.
All right, so let's move on then to the big Mamma Jamma. So
wow.
What was it, 2-3 weeks ago, good friend of the show, Ryan Archibald Payton, came to this very podcast wanting to talk to us about Codename NX
His
predictions.
middle name is Archibald?
I made that up.
Okay.
And so we went through that in
I was so happy.
phases. Thank you. I wish it is Archibald. And if you're listening, Ryan, thank you for stopping by. You're always welcome to come back.
Thanks for stopping by.
We talked about what do you think is the hardware spec? What do you think is the controller? And what are 3 unique features? Now, sadly, I did not get to finish mine, but I also didn't form mine as well as you two did. I'm hoping for a rematch one day. But until that time comes, we did ask our audience to send us their Codename NX predictions, which we have in front of us right now. This has been a long time coming. So here you go. First one from Tony, who says, okay, so for the controller, well, first of all, for the hardware specs, he thinks it'll be PS4 level, Xbox One level of power, machine power. So it'll be some pretty graphics. Controller, the primary controller bundled with the console will be a traditional style controller similar to the Pro Controller. And new NX games will be designed for this controller. Probably will have motion capabilities similar to the PS4 controller. So I think people forget, right? The PS4 DualShock does still have motion involved. So he thinks it would support that.
You remember it when you accidentally trigger something you didn't want to trigger most of the time.
But I still play Splatoon with motion on. Do you?
So I had turned it off for a while, and then I turned it on again, and I am actually liking it with motion a little better. Just for little corrections, because it can get hard to look around and, like, especially with a paint roller, it's actually helpful to be able to quick look while walking forward and all that. So I like it.
Yeah, I play with the motion on. And it's one of the reasons I think I've gotten good at the game is just a quick shift to turn and fire at someone and line it up really fast.
And there are definitely uses for tilt that I really, really like. It's just that, sometimes developers just feel like they have to use it, and then they use it for the weird stuff. Like, actually, my son's playing GoldenEye, the remake, on the Wii right now. Like, he somehow discovered it, and he's playing it. And it has these weird things where, like, you're shaking one controller up and down and one sideways, and it's like it's absolutely not connected to what the motion is in the game, and so that it just becomes this odd, like, well, that's stupid moment. And he's like, I don't understand why I'm doing this.
Okay, that's really funny. But motion controls are take it or leave it, so we'll leave it at that. If you don't like playing Splatoon with motion, that's fine. Next, unique features. So Wii U backwards compatibility, because Nintendo is going to want people to buy these games since Wii U sold so few of its amazing games. This will fix the problem of not having a ton of games to play right when the console launches, since most people who buy the NX never played Wii U games and will have a huge opportunity to play those games. Okay, unique feature number 2. Optional tablet controller you can buy that will double as a handheld console. No new games will be made for this tablet controller, and it will not work without being paired with an NX. But it will be able to download and play NX and Wii U games on the go that you already own on the NX.
So he's basically saying it's a peripheral that is optional when you want to take your games on the go.
Yeah, but he's future-proofing Wii U compatibility with that, right?
Okay.
Because
so
if you don't have a gamepad, how would that work?
Yeah,
right?
so it's similar to what Ryan and I kind of said, but making it wholly optional, right? That's a big difference. Yeah. Interesting.
And then unique feature number 3, strong connectivity between the NX home console, optional tablet, controller/console, and their smartphone games. You'll be able to continue your save file from NX games on the home console with the optional tablet controller and go via online connectivity, making for one seamless save file you can play at home and on the go.
Yep.
Smartphone games will have challenges, which have beaten unlock features in your NX games. I feel like you kind of married all of our everything we said on that show. No offense, Tony.
And it's honestly that's what he's saying. He's saying, like, he feels this prediction is a good fusion of your ideas and my ideas.
I see that at the bottom, rationale.
And it's honestly, it's what Sony was trying to get at, right? Like the uninterrupted experience that you can start a game at home and then you go on the go and you have that same quality experience while on the go. They tried that with a Vita.
They did. And it worked. Vita. To be honest, I think it worked for one game, and people will be surprised which game it worked with. And I'm not talking about a PS4 game. I'm actually talking about a PS3 game.
No.
Metal Gear Solid HD Collection, which you had to buy twice, and that's a bummer. But if you use the whole transferring, which was the Hideo Kojima branding on, the idea of transferring a save file, that thing was cool. I will admit that. Because it was a PS2 game, I did not have a problem with, and Metal Gear Solid 3 is a beast of a game. That is one of my favorite games of all time. Absolutely. Like, I love the Metal Gear Solid series, but 3 holds a special place in my heart. And going between Vita and PS3 to play it was really cool. I'm not gonna deny that. I think certain games, and I've said it before on this show, that may not work as well, but I was thoroughly impressed by how well it worked across PS3 and Vita.
Cool.
You want to read this next one?
I'll take Zachary Cooper's suggestion. He says the hardware spec is going to be more powerful than the PlayStation 4. Excuse me.
Are you choking
right
up
when I'm talking in the Xbox One
because of the hardware spec?
No, I just love Zachary Cooper.
Okay, got it.
So more powerful, that's good. Controller, he's saying it's like a gamepad 3DS, a smaller gamepad that has 2 screens on it. The bottom has a touch screen and the top is 3D.
Paris silently judging you.
Yeah, and he has the ability to stream NX games on the go and can play its own library of games, sort of like a Vita but better. And so his 3 unique features are play NX games on the handheld controller. Second is can play 3DS and Wii U games, so compatible with both of them. That would be nice. And then third is online party chat. That is a special feature that we will see someday again.
Someday.
Yeah. Look, we obviously have seen party chat in Nintendo games before, like Animal Crossing, Call of Duty, and Pokemon. So that's a cheeky little suggestion there.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, I mean, it's the most contentious argument with Splatoon right now.
Yeah, but it is interesting. Like, I think the question of hardware power is a big one. Like, will it be like the PS4 and the Xbox One, or will it go beyond those 2 consoles? I mean, right now you've got all this brouhaha around Project Cars. Did you see that?
Talk about it a little bit here.
Right. Project Cars was supposed to come to the Wii U as a stretch goal. It was on Kickstarter, right?
That's right. I remember
it was supposed to come to Wii U as well as other current gen consoles. And now the developer is saying after a while, and I called this. I didn't think Project Cars would make it out on Wii U.
Yeah.
No. Basically said, well, looks like we're running into all sorts of issues. Development is just really difficult. We would have to sacrifice a lot to get this game to run on Wii U. And so that to me tells me that it's probably not going to happen. I honestly think the market for a realistic kind of sim racer like that isn't there for the Wii U, and it would be a lot of work for them to make it happen, and then would be really challenging to sell it. It's a bummer for people who only have the Wii U and were looking forward to this game. But that's the challenge you will run in again with the next generation, right? Like, if you want volume and breadth of a library, the closer this console is to the others, the easier it will be for people to give you that.
Yeah, that's right. It seems like Nintendo did build that console around the notion that they were betting on a slower adoption to next gen.
Yeah, for sure.
They did.
But also, you got to ask whether they saw how successful the Wii was with lesser hardware and said, you know what? People who have unique ideas will make custom games for our machine, and they will sell really, really well.
If the machine sells, right. Absolutely.
And so that didn't happen with the Wii U, obviously, which kind of made this problem worse. But like that, I mean, people are making games for an iPhone, whether the iPhone is more powerful or less powerful than an Android phone, it doesn't matter, right? Like, as long as there's a market and an install base, people will do that. And with the Wii, there was an install base, and I think publishers were just late. Like, that, they would have made way more games if they had more foresight and they understood what this thing was going to do.
So when it took off, it basically caught them all with their pants down.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
Moving on, then, the next
Sean Smith,
hardware
you got
NX
Sean? Yeah, I got Sean for our next Codename NX prediction, provided by you readers. And we're not taking any more.
Brought to you by
there
your
were
readers.
A lot of these. Thank you so much for sending these in if you took the time. If yours didn't make the program, I'm sorry, but thank you anyway for sending in an email and for supporting the show. Yes, there were so many. I blame Ryan Archibald Payton for all of it. So, hardware spec, slightly better than a Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
Controller. The controller is the console. No more box. This controller has all the hardware built in. Mm-hmm. So a one-piece machine.
Yep.
Unique features. Number 1, the console controller wirelessly connects to any device, such as TVs, PCs, tablets, and smartphones. Unique feature number 2, completely customizable controller, allows faceplate swapping, hand grip changes, and more. And unique feature number 3, wireless charging pad for controller comes with purchase.
Okay.
Well, and it seems I was under the impression that the controller is the console, but whatever. Wireless charging is a cool thing, by the way. Have you seen an Apple Watch?
Yeah.
You just snap that thing on the back and you're good.
Yeah, that's pretty
what a
cool.
world we live in.
Like all that, all the that kind of stuff is just magical to me.
Okay.
I want more of it.
Sure. All right. So,
by the way, in my house now,
what?
I can I have the Amazon Echo. You know, that weird cigar-shaped thing that Amazon sells. It's like a speaker that you can put in your kitchen. You can talk to it. Yeah, I don't have friends, so I talk to speakers. No, but you can now say, and you can use a wake word. You can say, Alexa, play Nintendo Voice Chat, and it'll go, playing Nintendo Voice Chat.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, you can now listen to our podcast on Echo if you have it. If you have an Echo, I probably just triggered it, too. So,
okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good job.
Turn
it's
off
kind of
all
like
lights.
Xbox on.
I love tech, and anything like that. Wireless charging is just cool.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for that, Sean. Do you want to take this next one?
I'll take the next one.
So I didn't put the name on
Forgot
this. I'm
the name.
sorry.
So
Whoops.
Unknown Soldier. We love you. He says it's going to be the new NES.
Just kidding. He
No,
hopes.
He was really hoping for a return to the NES name for the Wii U, and I'm hoping they decide to keep it simple. Maybe NES 2 if they're worried about confusion with the original NES. Clearly, they're not worried about confusion if they call one console Wii U after the Wii. So that might happen, and maybe that confusion is good, right? Like Nintendo Entertainment System would be really cool, just for nostalgia reasons. I think. I agree with you. It would be awesome. Hardware spec, he thinks, between the Wii U and the other current generation consoles, so the PS4 and the Xbox One, but iterative of current Wii U hardware, so Wii U games remain BC.
Backwards compatible.
Yeah. Controller, Wii U tablet, Pro Controller, and Wii Remote. So he's saying they're going to do the same thing
They're
again.
keeping it? Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
It's too much. It's too much.
I think that's where, investors in Nintendo would have something to say. They would say, no, you cannot do the same thing if the first one didn't work out.
Yeah, and
right?
It technically only really worked out for them possibly on Wii.
Yeah.
Just because Wii sold gangbusters. And so Wii was the peripheral machine. Let's be fair. Everything attached to that thing, whether by Bluetooth or by wire.
He's saying
unnamed soldier.
Unnamed Soldier says the unique feature number one is that both successors to the Wii U and 3DS will be able to play the same games because the hardware is being designed to scale up and down, and Nintendo merges the divisions that creates these machines.
Sounds impossible, but keep going.
Who knows? That means they no longer have to develop for two different platforms, which, I think is one of the big issues.
Well, and there was something that Chris brought up last week, right, where he said it is a hard sell now to sell a Nintendo customer on two devices. That's becoming more and more a popular argument here as well. The notion that you have a handheld and that you have a portable. And I guess I can hear that to a degree. I always bring it back around to, well, what's your storage? Where is this game? How big does this go? But I just want to throw that out there.
Think of the iPhone and the iPad, right? You could create a game that is completely customized for the iPad and only spend your time developing it. Or you can, because the two are very similar, they have different screen sizes. You can create a version that works on both.
But a 3D game would not look good on my television in most cases.
That is the challenge. So you would have to build a handheld that's freaking powerful.
Yeah.
There's no question about that.
And not to say the
Vita gets close though.
Yeah, or not to say that Nintendo isn't super talented with their art direction. Look at what they've done on Wii U. Look at to a degree. This is not Nintendo directly, but Kirby. The last Kirby game with the clay animation style. Look at Yoshi's Woolly World. Look at Super Mario 3D World. The footprint for Super Mario 3D World is tiny, even though that game has a ton of levels going on.
Yeah, for sure.
So just nailing the right look and scaling the assets right, it could work.
Yep. Scaling the what?
Scaling the assets.
Oh, I thought you said something else.
Oh, did you?
Unique feature number 2, all VC games work across both platforms. Current VC owners of VC games may have to pay a small fee, like $1, to port to the new console, but this is the last time that the VC library will be separate.
Are you going to pay another $1 for Super Mario Brothers? Are you?
Brian will.
Brian is out. Brian said he is not doing it anymore.
Brian is in France. That's how
that's
far
right.
out he is right now. Unique feature number 3, a premium online subscription service ecosystem to match Xbox Live and PSN, but with a Nintendo spin. I'm not sure what this would be. Street Pass incentives, free games that maybe aren't available regularly, and so forth. Okay, interesting.
Okay, so this next one comes from Corey. And he says, hello, gang. And let's just get right to it. Hardware spec, bigger hard drive, 250 to 500 gigabytes.
Well,
Can I ask you something?
Hard drive.
A hard drive. Well, first of all, a hard drive. Second of all, you own a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. How are your hard drives right now?
My PS4 and Wii U storage were full, so I added new hard drives. I swapped
on the Wii U, that's a given. I'm talking about
Wii
the
U
other two that
external.
have half a gig.
Remember, I have 2 PS4s and 2 Xbox Ones in the house. No, we have 3 Xbox Ones.
Money,
yeah,
yes.
because of that.
GM
No,
money.
because there are lots of people who live in my house, unlike
That's
yours.
fine, but what's your storage
Doesn't
situation?
Francisco have a separate console
He
too?
does, yeah.
See?
Yeah, but I'm asking, what's your storage situation looking like?
PS4 is full. I swapped the hard drive, the internal hard drive, opened it up, put a new one in. Because I was out of space on my main PS4.
Okay.
Not the second one. That one is still normal. Xbox One, honestly, because I buy so many multi-platform games on the PS4, partially because I have a bigger hard drive now, my Xbox One is not quite full, but I have deleted some stuff off it. Okay. So I should get a new hard drive.
I guess the point I'm trying to lean towards, though, is that
it's never enough.
Despite how convenient these hard drives are built in, I do feel like there is a lifespan just waiting in the wings, and you're going to have to replace it. I'm not saying Nintendo's choice on Wii U was smart. Yeah. 32 gigabytes or 8 gigs was an awful way to go, in my opinion, if you're trying to push digital. It is. But on this on the current gen spec, with whether it's the fault of uncompressed assets or just the games are that much more complex now, it does blow my mind that despite having half a gig of space, it's not enough.
Half a terabyte you can already fill up pretty quickly nowadays. Yeah. No, it's
half a terabyte. This is true. I shouldn't have said half a gig.
No, half a gig would be very, very fast.
Yeah,
no, I think the challenge is that what we expected those consoles to be has also changed, right? Like you buy a disc. Like if you're saying, hey, I'm not going to buy digital because I'm worried about my hard drive filling up. I'm going to buy disc. It's like you're screwed on the other machines because they install so much now, right? Like in some cases, the entire game has to be installed, depending on the machine you own, and so these are humongous games with lots of content, and they fill up the drive faster.
And I want to be clear to folks,
Nintendo's different still, right?
Yeah,
like a lot of stuff is on the disc and doesn't get installed.
Yeah, but I do want to point out, I'm not trying to point this out as a large negative. I absolutely love my PS4. I absolutely love my Xbox One, but it is something that is coming up more frequently the deeper into this cycle with these consoles that we're getting. And I do feel like, at some point I'm going to have to buy a second hard drive.
Yeah.
For one of those.
Are you
systems.
Almost full with your first?
I'm pretty sure on Xbox One I'm almost full. Yeah, I just bought Witcher 3. I've been playing that, and there's a lot happening.
But the market could also change, right? Like if streaming is really becoming the wave of the future, and bandwidth someday will no longer be a problem. It certainly is a problem in some of my rooms in my house. Like the connection is not many thousands of rooms. They're behind the glass garage under the swimming pool. I don't have a great connection everywhere. Yeah. I have a fast connection in certain areas, and so like streaming is not there yet, but it could be that all your assets are stored remotely and you no longer install games, right?
I'm done.
We'll
not
see.
As powerful as an Xbox One, PS4, but more powerful than a Wii U is part of Corey's prediction. Backwards compatible, big deal. And I agree with that. He's calling it a name already. He's calling it the Nintendo Sphere.
Okay.
Hang on to something.
Yeah.
All right, so the controller.
That'd be terrible in katakana.
Yeah.
In Japanese.
What would that be like?
Sphere. It'd be hard to say.
The Nintendo Sphere.
Sphere.
Controller. Pack-in controller is a much, much better version of the gamepad. Do you think a much better version of the gamepad would help?
Yes. Yes. An iPad.
Okay.
No.
Able to
with
buy
buttons.
Okay.
With buttons.
Yeah, you better say with buttons. Able to buy Pro Controller as an add-on, and no motion controls for the controller.
Okay.
No motion controls. We're done with motion, says Corey.
I agree.
Nintendo's done with motion.
I agree.
Okay, so let's see this. He follows up with 3 things. Corey, you're lucky, because normally I'd stop here, but I guess he means these as his 3 features.
Yeah.
Okay, I was unclear.
Yep.
NX is a code name for a reason. It is a cross-platform. X.
Yep.
Cross-country is abbreviated X country at times.
You got it.
This is my theory for the codename as well. There will be a rounded hub, hence the name Nintendo Sphere.
You thought this through, Corey,
that
man.
holds the specs and has the disc tray on top. Would look just like the shape of a stack of 100 CDs. A little bit bigger circumference than that. Jutting out from the hub would be a tray that looks similar to the gamepad tray. What's on the tray is number 2. Number 2. So what's on the tray? Number 2 tells us a PS Vita quality handheld will be the controller and will sit charged on the tray connected to the hub. There should be a touchscreen on the back and trigger buttons, L1, R1 buttons as well.
Man, you want everything.
Yeah, this is a lot. The layout would be similar to the gamepad, but the screen is smaller, but better. Able to show 1080p, 60 frames. Okay, we're going off a cliff here for games like Mario Kart 8.
Corey, this is going to cost $100,000.
Yeah, nice job. Next, last one. No, thank you, Corey, for sending this in. The way these two interact would be via Wi-Fi cloud-based tech. There will be dedicated handheld on-the-go games that can slide in or be downloaded to the controller, as well as dedicated console-based games. However, the home console-based games would be able to be streamed on the go to the controller, but 2 things would be required. Home console is on in some fashion, and the game has to be in the console, and 2, the controller and console need to be connected to the internet, and the console would stream to the controller, blah, blah, blah. My one thing with that, so Vita actually... One of my only criticisms with Vita at launch was how much that thing wanted to be connected to the internet. Like every other thing was asking you, are you on Wi-Fi? Is there Wi-Fi?
Well,
give me the Wi-Fi. Like,
and do you want to download an update? No, but you have to.
yeah, that was part of that experience. I hope that's not the case here.
I've taken many trips where I'm like, yes, I picked up this new game, and then you try to play it, and it's like update required.
And the disappointment begins. All right, you got this one from Brian D.
Yeah, so Brian D. We don't know Brian's last name, but so I'm going to call him Brian Daltano.
Okay.
He's got something very different. I was waiting for somebody to make this prediction. So he's saying it is going to be a life-changing piece of hardware. For hardware specs, I believe the NX is going to be a virtual reality machine. He was completely on board with the home handheld hybrid predictions, but recently Iwata stated that the NX is not going to be a simple replacement for the 3DS or the Wii U. This had me thinking that this console may be something completely different and marketed as such. Nintendo originally tried to pull this off with the DS, but eventually it overshadowed the GBA. He's referring to the third pillar strategy, right? Like where you had the DS and the GBA coexist, which the moment we saw the DS, we all said, no, that's not going to happen. You can't run all 3 lines like that.
Yeah.
So he's saying...
Did you think GBA would die that quickly, though? Hang on, back up. Did you think GBA would have died that quickly? DS was the future. That was it. Even when you saw the very toy-like looking DS? Yeah. Remember the very first model that was absolutely hideous?
I was not a big fan of the silver hamburger, but...
Okay.
I thought the moment you have this device in the channel, like it's game over for Game Boy, because they kept on not talking about it. Like they kept on not talking about new software and everything.
For Game Boy, for Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Micro, the fashion statement machine.
At the announcement, I'm sure I drank the Kool-Aid and was like, yeah, now we've got 2 handhelds and I'm going to hold one in each hand. But quickly afterwards, I think it became apparent so quickly that they just didn't talk about it anymore.
I appreciate your honesty. Yeah. That's pretty good.
Well, no, I'm crazy. I believe all sorts of stuff, and then later on say I never believed it.
The Schneider flop.
That's what I call it. He says, Brian Daltano says, people make fun of the Virtual Boy's failure, but that was literally over 20 years ago, and I believe Nintendo will have no problem trying virtual reality gaming again. The controller is going to be very traditional, much like the current Wii U Pro Controller. The real star of the show is the head unit, or whatever they call it. The goggles. Unique feature number 1 is portability. Nintendo is known for making their hardware accessible. Therefore, they want to make sure this is a machine you can travel with. Interesting, right? Like if you know current like Oculus, any of those, it's a commitment to make that portable. There's some smaller
and quite a fashion statement to make that portable.
But there's some VR, VR solutions where you literally strap an Android phone to your head. I've seen that. Yeah, it's actually surprisingly, it's actually not bad. It's just the resolution.
It's not good either, though.
No.
Come on.
But it is. I'm just saying, like, I'm with Brian. It's doable. You can have a portable virtual reality machine. Unique feature number 2 is connectivity with the 3DS and the Wii U. That they'll have a new account system and the hardware will be able to talk to each other and include crossplay. Number 3 is NFC compatibility. Since Amiibos or Amiibi, He's suggesting
Just Amiibo. Okay.
Have taken off since their launch. It is almost a no-brainer that the NX will have some sort of deeper support for them. I agree
definitely
with that.
Amiibo's not going away.
No,
unless it tanks within the next 6 to 12 months, and I just don't see that happening.
Yep.
I don't think Amiibo's going away, but I will say virtual reality and a set of goggles and a headset goes completely against what Nintendo is today.
You think so?
That is such a core gamer concept. That is such a core gamer device. They're not trying to sell to Joe core gamer alone. That hasn't been part of their strategy for a while now. I don't know. They just, that's why every other product shot you see, even of especially during the Wii era, maybe still of Wii U. Actually, I have to do a little closer looking at their marketing. Is always the family, is always the living room, is always a bunch of people playing together.
So you don't think they'll go for something that is essentially a solitary experience, because the VR sets are.
No.
I'm first in line for real release Oculus. I really like the experience with some of the games, but it's definitely not something that I could see playing for prolonged hours either.
Yeah.
But what about a Google Glass type of thing where it doesn't take over your entire experience, but it's something that kind of unlocks playing in the wild, like you can do Pokemon Snap in real life. Do you think that's just crazy?
I don't want to see that guy on the train.
Yeah, I don't want that either.
I don't know if I want that.
But that's truly a third pillar in this case, right? This is not like any of the other two machines.
It's a third something. I'll say that. Yeah. But hey, Brian Daltano, thanks for sending that in. No, seriously, I'm giving you a bit of a hard time, but I do appreciate you sending an email. Hey, my name is Michael. Love the show. My prediction is a little weird, but I'll explain it further as I go along. Hardware spec. Optimize Wii U level of power. I think they will make it faster, a little more powerful, but keep it in line with what they are currently working with. Controller. Wearable Fitbit style band and a traditional style remote, like the Pro Controller, bundled in the box. The next iteration Nintendo handheld will be the second screen controller that is purchased separately. Separately, pair.
This is interesting. This is interesting. I told you about this, right? Ubisoft had a huge success with their dancing game, right?
Yes.
And
Just Dance.
And it's still a huge success on the Wii.
Yeah.
That's right. The original Wii.
And it's
there's because the Wii U never came bundled with a Wii remote or kind of a controller where you can get up and just shake it. That it was never a thing. It was never kind of like the mainstream success target. Whereas the Wii, they still keep releasing these games and they still keep selling really, really well. It's their little secret. So I actually like the idea that he's proposing that there could be a wearable with it that interacts with the machine. And that's a cheaper thing to do than a full remote too.
Absolutely. All right, unique feature number 1, I think the NX will come with a Fitbit style band that pairs with the NX and the next Nintendo handheld. The 3DS is in decline, and I think that the two devices launch together. I also think Nintendo handhelds sell too well to completely be let go of, which that's fair. I mean, they still sort of hold down the dedicated gaming handheld market, even though there aren't that many players in that space anymore. The Fitbit style band will be the, quote, life controller that tracks activity and street passes with other bands. It is the bridge between the handheld, console, and real life. You could throw probably smartphone in there, and that would be the trifecta, right?
Yeah, the Triforce.
And unique feature number 2, life-related achievements. I think that with the band, they will implement life-related features like walking 1 mile or playing for 30 minutes or street passing 5 people. These achievements will add perks to your accounts. Whoa, hold on there, Buster. Achievements on a Nintendo thing? I don't know about that.
Come on. I agree.
I don't think achievements are a standard, but anyway, the achievements will add perks to your account across all platforms and affect your global rank. Where are your games? Where are your games? Unnamed person, Michael. Oh, there you go, Michael. All right, so a global achievement system that ranks countries on game and life-related achievements, similar to Smash Power, but be based on country or region. So kind of gamifying life. I find that interesting. I don't know if they take that route. Maybe quality of life experiments with that stuff.
This sounds totally Nintendo to me.
Yeah.
Don't you think? I could see this.
Yeah, I could see Wii era Nintendo doing it. I don't know if I could see post Wii U era Nintendo.
Yeah, but they've been trying to claw that part of the market back, and I think the only thing that stopped them is that every company on the planet has done wearables and fitness related stuff, and I don't think they found a kind of an angle to attack it. Could be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, Iwata has said that with respect to wearables, the only thing he has said that we're looking at non-wearables, right? Whatever the hell that is.
That's not all right. I'm going to finish Michael's prediction though. There will be daily or weekly challenges.
It's a beard you put on that tracks
games
your
and life activities. Examples: game achievements will be like playing most of a game or collecting the most stamps. Life achievements will be finding 3 new street passes or walking 1 mile. The ranking system is set up like the Mushroom Kingdom, with the winning country set up in a castle and the lower ranked countries far off from the castle making their way up the ranks. I will say, fine, you can say this idea is very Nintendo. I mean, do you remember Everybody Votes?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? That was the strangest part of the Wii, but also hilarious.
It was
in that you got to track public opinion on some of the strangest topics or questions.
It was first of all, it was amazing that they turned what is essentially a survey into, they gamified a survey, right?
Yeah.
Like, to me, that kind of feature is great for a dashboard. Like, if you powered up your Wii U when the little guys are running out, like, you could have that kind of stuff, right? Yep. Like that fun interactivity. But as a kind of thing you have to select and go into, it was just crazy. Because, of course, you get bored of it after.
And that's what I was going to bring up. I feel like experiments like that, or experiments like Michael's idea, do not appeal to us, the core gamer here. I mean, we're still core gamers. Sure, you're a man with a family. I don't have that problem. But the idea that I want to play deep, involving, great Nintendo games from core franchises that I care about, or core franchises that I look forward to seeing the next entry on, like a Zelda, for example. I just bring that up because this has in no way, shape, or form does it even come close to that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right.
Look, interesting ideas.
Oh yeah, totally interesting ideas. Thank you so much for saying these. This one comes from Ian.
Thanks for reminding me of that whole kind of quality of life stuff, because we had glossed over it and we haven't talked about it in a while.
No, we haven't.
And and it's still a conundrum what non-wearables mean. Maybe they're gonna make edibles. That ties in with the Mushroom Kingdom too.
Oh no! What are you doing? Where are you taking this?
I'll be here all week. So next suggestion comes from Ian. Menchie on the Twitter. His specs, hardware specs, not as high as PS4, but close. So seems like everybody's pretty cautious on predicting a kind of a killer, like, big PC style hardcore power machine. Right?
And I almost wonder why. Is it because Nintendo will be playing catch up, or do they think PS4, Xbox One level power will be around a long time, just like the last gen?
Yeah.
Last gen, PS3 360 was here for what felt like forever.
I think it's probably based just on the last 2 machines and the way the 3DS isn't, it's not past the Vita spec, or, I mean, in some cases, PSP still had a little bit more oomph in it, right? Yeah, interesting. So he's saying there will be a gamepad type controller, primarily for portable play. So that keeps on coming up. In most of the suggestions, people were saying there is a gamepad type controller, whether it's a hybrid or not. The controller will have built-in memory, which will be able to store 2 or 3 games at a time for purely portable play. So he's saying it's standalone. You can take with you. Transferring of content will be possible only within close proximity of the primary system, which will read the discs and have the option for more storage for digital games.
Interesting side note to that. I remember, sorry not to interrupt you, Miyamoto83 told me and Brian last year that they were working on a concept at one point that your Wii U would be able to tell you got home before your dog did. It would detect your 3DS. And
That's called geofencing. So my house already does that.
Yeah,
like
and
you
your
can
phone
use
does that, right?
Yeah,
like, most smartphones.
You can have a smart things hub, and you can tether your phones to it. And so when my kids come home, it's like.
The GM money children.
Well, it's like when they even around, like they're still far away from home. It's, you know when they're coming home.
Got it.
It's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool.
I don't use it for nefarious reasons.
I hope
it's
not.
just it's nice when you're not home. You know everybody's okay, right?
Safe.
Peace of mind. So he's saying exactly. The controller can connect to other NX consoles, but only as an additional controller. It can only connect to one primary system for transfer of content. So that sounds very Nintendo. The other primary controller for this system will be the Wii U Pro Controller, which will be rebranded as the NX Pro Controller.
No.
This will only work for home use. You cannot use it to control a game on the portable gamepad type controller.
I am a hater on the Wii U Pro Controller.
Really? You don't like it?
I have brought it up on the show before. I do not like its
I always
design.
ignore your opinion, so I keep on asking.
Well, I'm going to remind you of them.
Okay. Unique feature, it's because of the reverse stick, huh?
It is not just the reverse stick. I tried playing Donkey Kong. I actually reviewed Tropical Freeze mostly using that controller, and my hands hurt.
Yeah, but that's because you're a giant. And not everybody's a giant.
No. I also didn't like the reverse stick.
The gamepad is just the right size for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it is actually. But,
I like it.
But,
it took you a while.
Really good. Yeah, it took me a little bit to come around.
Oh man, I miss playing Doshin the Giant. I haven't played that in ages.
Schneider flop. Keep going.
Unique feature number 1: it'll be backwards compatible with the Wii U, but only for play at home.
Okay.
Unique feature number 2: the gamepad will output at 720p, but the home console will output at 1080p. Games will be downgraded. Unique feature number 3: voice chat. Man, there's a theme here, right?
People want to talk.
It will feature voice chat in online play, but it will only be with people from your friend
That's
list.
Fine. You know what? If that's what you're giving them, that's 100% fine. I don't. Stranger danger.
That's what I
don't need
want.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are his specs, and he loves the podcast. Thank you very much, Ian.
All right. Well, that's a lot of predictions, but it's not all the predictions. Thank you very much for emailing us. You can email us at nvc@ign.com, but we are no longer taking predictions for this poll. It was a lot of fun to sort of read and see your opinions, but man, you guys send a lot of emails.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, sadly, we need to move on.
But there was definitely the theme was a lot of people were saying hybrid or hybrid in some fashion, still with the gamepad. And then there were quite a few with virtual reality headset kind of.
Couple
of remember that fake fan-made thing before the Wii got announced? There was like this fake trailer of a Nintendo headset. You never see.
I remember.
You never saw
this.
It was really nicely done. It was very, very
lame,
cool.
Is more
I
what
liked
I have to
it.
remember.
I liked it.
If you like anything,
I love everything.
No, that's fine.
That's
all right.
true.
Well, thank you for listening to Nintendo Voice Chat. It's a bit of a shorter show this week, but we are a man down, and we did want to make sure that your Nintendo NX predictions were read. So this was just for you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for sending that stuff in. If you want to email us and send us a suggestion for the question block, which is sort of a question segment we bring around. Why not next week a special E3 focused question block?
Oh my God,
send
E3
us
is almost
your
here.
E3 questions. Send us what you think Nintendo might do at E3. Send us what sort of opinion. Find a discussion angle, but related to E3. Email it to nvc@ign.com with the subject line E3 question block.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah, and I know we did our E3 prediction show already, but why don't we just sit down and look at the table, look at the tea leaves a little bit, look at what's set in place. What do we think they're going to be talking about? What do we know they'll be talking about? A little bit of that. We did some of it on GameScoop, but I would love to do that with you and Brian, who Brian, by the way, should be back in the office next week.
Okay.
If he's not, I'm going to be so disappointed, but we will find his replacement if not. So make sure that you stick around.
Yeah, look, we have an old visitor who's returned to IGN, Andrew Goldfarb
Tried himself, to get him today.
A huge Nintendo fan. We'll definitely have him on the podcast. You know, Andrew's been on Podcast Beyond a lot in the past, and he just returned from a stint working at a developer. Really liked it at IGN, so he's back in the house. So we've got a new Street Pass friend again too.
Absolutely, cool. All right. Well, thank you for listening to Nintendo Voice Chat. We are a weekly show on IGN, but we are not the only piece of content on IGN. In fact, there are videos, features, all kinds of shows, and good news content stories for you. So make sure you head on over to IGN.com, check out our content, check out what we make and what we do. Also, if you're an MVC listener and you love to support Nintendo Voice Chat, why not submit a review? Head on over to iTunes, leave us a show review, or send us your feedback at nvc@ign.com. Lastly, you can find us on Twitter. You can find the always amazing Per Schneider at
Per IGN.
You can find myself, Jose_Otero. And thank you very much for listening. We will be back next week with more Nintendo Voice Chat.